Hello, I'm Anawultus, and today I will be talking about my thoughts on the American vice presidential debate that happened on, I believe it was Monday or Tuesday. Anyway, it happened, and of course, we had Pence and Kane, and they both went in there. At the start, I thought, well, this might actually be a nice debate, but of course, knowing the actual presidential candidates and the vice presidential candidates had to deal with, of course, playing second fiddle to the presidential candidates. So anything that happened on the big stage earlier, of course, translated to the smaller stage as well. So overall, I have to think that certainly Pence won the debate. Um, Probably the reason he won the most was because of his of how he carried himself during the debate. But actually, before I continue, I'd just like to mention that the last few days I've been a little bit sick, so if my voice sounds a bit off, you know what it is. But anyway, so Pence went in and he was calm and collected, and he was very respectful to Kane. In fact, he even complimented Kane a few times, and although that's not necessarily a good thing in a debate, he complimented Kane in a manner that didn't compromise his own position, which is actually a really good way to compliment someone in a debate. And it shows how nice you are as a person and how respectful you are. Um, Kane, on the other hand, was he let's just say he exhibited both the negative qualities of Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton that they displayed in their debates. He was smug at all times. Man, you should have seen Kane. He was absolutely smug. And he interrupted at all times as well. I'm not saying that Pence didn't interrupt, but Kane's interruptions certainly were more noticeable and more prominent. Of course, Pence ensured that he had his time to say what he wanted to say. So the interruptions weren't necessarily too effective, if that word counts in this instance. But I think that honestly, the way Pence put things, he would actually be an electable person to me. But the problem is, of course, the problem is that the whole time he had to try to defend Trump. But a problem with Trump is that because Trump becomes so inconsistent with the things he says, and sometimes Trump doesn't really look through all sides of the issue before he makes a statement on it. Kane had to defend some pretty undefendable statements. Not Kane. Pence had to defend some pretty undefendable statements, and as such, was forced to deny some things that Kane said, because Kane made several quotes of Trump or paraphrases of Trump where he showed what Trump had actually said, and many of these things were true. Of course, Kane did pull a few things out of his butt and misinterpret a few things, but some of the things he said were certainly true and accurate to their context. And Pence had to defend that, which, of course, is not defendable with that kind of candidate. So, Pence, poor man, seems like a good guy to me, but the fact that he is just trapped having to defend someone like Trump is a bit upsetting. And, of course, Kane had his problems as well. He several times didn't really deny some accusations that had been made against Hillary. And the problem with him not denying some of these accusations isn't the fact that that would be an admission of truth, because it's not. But the fact that he doesn't deny these things and then goes on to make a criticism on Trump when Trump did something similar to what Hillary did, it comes off as a bit hypocritical, to be honest. Some mental gymnastics going on there, especially when the issue of abortion came up, because you've got the pro-life side that says that a fetus is a human life and therefore should not, and therefore does not, no one has a right or freedom to kill one. On the other hand, there's a pro-choice side which says that since it's in the woman's body, she has the right to exercise her authority over it. And then there's the weird problems with some gray areas, of course. Not gray areas in the pro-life side, because they don't have many gray areas, but gray areas in the pro-choice side because, for example, if just recently a fetus or infant, depending on which term you want to use, was born a couple months early or something, and was then killed by the mother afterwards, and of course it was counted as murder, but but if it had actually not been born prematurely but had stayed longer and actually matured a bit more inside the mother, and then had been aborted before being born, then it would not be against the law, even though it's more developed at that point, which is kind of weird. And that's the problem with all these things. It's because you end up with, you might say, well, the cutoff point is birth, and of course people try to make a gray area out of that by endorsing partial birth abortion, and then that becomes a problem. And then people might say, well, it's actually because the child is dependent on the mother, and which is why some of these people, not all of them, some of these people advocate that abortion should still be allowed into the teenage years. So this is maybe some 10, not necessarily teenage, but let's say a 2-year-old, someone who's been out of the womb, who's 2 years old, may already be able to walk and talk, depending on how the child was raised. And someone says, nope, I don't want you anymore, you're dead. And it's just completely weird. It's a total mess, and I hope somebody sorts it out. So the thing is, Kane is a Catholic, at least in that is how he describes himself, and also a Jesuit. I've got plenty of things to say about the Jesuits, but I'll leave that for another time. But anyway, his personal stance is anti-abortion. However, when Pence brought that up, Kane decided to defend Hillary's stance on Roe versus Wade. And people saying, oh, they're trying to put Roe v. Wade in the dustbins of history. Yeah, and I'm sure Roe also wants to put Roe v. Wade in the dustbins of history because, of course, she wasn't satisfied afterwards. It's one of those things where the problem with a pregnant mother making all these choices is that the hormones are going weird. So sometimes, not always, sometimes you aren't entirely capable, let's just say that, psychologically capable. Some people, not all people, some people have a few mental issues that occur during pregnancy. And of course, many of these people, they then opt for abortion, and afterwards they cry and they're really sad and depressed. Some of them even, I bet some of them even kill themselves. But it's one of those things where your judgment is impaired. Um, Similar to the reason why people who are really young aren't allowed to drive or vote or consume alcohol. It's because they haven't fully developed their reason yet. And as although there are a few exceptions, which some people get really smart really young, but for the most part, society doesn't trust young children with this. But it does apparently trust people whose hormones are going completely wild in making a life or death choice. Of course, the father never has any choice in this. But actually, let's get back on topic. Okay, the debate. So the problem with Kane doing this, with siding with Hillary on this issue, he could have just simply said, "I personally disagree on this one issue," which, of course, the media would have blown way out of proportion. But instead, he chose to support Hillary on that issue. Um, and the problem with this is that it's a assuming that his stance on the issue is guided from a religious or moral viewpoint, uh, which would state that for the pro-lifers that abortion is murder, which would mean that these abortion clinics were places akin to the Nazi death camps, seeing as millions of people have been aborted. Not to mention the fact that all this abortion stuff was originally intended to target individuals of color, and as such was a a sort of voluntary or tricking people into genocide kind of thing. If you really look up Margaret Sanger, the person who founded Planned Parenthood, you would know that she was, of course, a prominent racist who even had affiliations with the KKK, the Ku Klux Klan, which is a racist organization. But anyway, back on track. Okay. Now, the problem with this religious and moral issue is that if you take the religious and moral standpoint on this, and then you say, I presume you're saying that abortion is murder, but then you say, but I'm okay with people aborting if it's their choice. That's really morally weird, to be honest. It's like saying, yeah, I'm okay with people murdering each other if it's their choice, which is really messed up. But this is, and you might say, well, that's really unfair to the pro-choicers. Well, the thing is, Kane himself is personally a pro-lifer, so this would have to be his viewpoint on this if he does this. So if he's going to take this abortion thing and he's going to put it, and His religion tells him that it's bad, and then he decides to put it above his religion. Then does that mean that then you have to ask yourself, how religious is this man actually? As in, is this guy actually serious about believing in God? If he decides to put things above God, wouldn't that make wouldn't that mean that he's not actually as religious as he says he is, or at least he's not being honest? So we end up with the Lewis trilemma. Let's use the Lewis trilemma because why not? A lunatic or a liar, or he's telling the truth. So is he a liar? In the sense, is he either lying about being okay with pro-choice or lying about his religious convictions? Okay, lunatic. Is he being inconsistent and simply cannot realize how inconsistent he is actually being? Or he's telling the truth? This man literally this man literally does not care if people choose to do bad things to each other from a moral religious standpoint. There may be a few other choices in this issue, but the fact that Kane could take a personal pro-life stance and then literally do the opposite in a political venue means that he's not actually pro-life on a personal level. Because the thing with pro-life is that you're not okay with people killing fetuses, human fetuses. But then he says that although it bothers him a little bit, he's okay with people making that choice. So, who is this man? Seriously, what is he doing? This is just messed up. This guy, the mental gymnastics this guy must do on a regular basis are just weird. Okay, I think that's enough before my own words start losing consistency. But I suppose on an end note, I'm recording this. I just uploaded 2 videos. I'm recording this on Thursday. I've uploaded, and by the time this comes out, it should have already long have been published. My 0 AD video for Thursday, as well as my Civilization 3 video for Saturday, and I will also be making my RSMC video for Friday later on, and hopefully I'll be able to update it, but I won't count on it because I know that I'm in Florida, and right now there is a Category 3 or 4 hurricane. I don't know whether it's gone down, but I think it's supposed to be 4, bearing down on me, and it'll be hitting where I am later on this very day, and I don't know how good my internet is going to be. I don't know if I'm even going to have power, but assuming everything goes alright, you'll see continued videos from me. If something goes wrong, or if the storm maybe cuts out the internet and then it just hovers over Florida, or just goes away and then comes back, as hurricanes are prone to doing, then you may not see a video from me in maybe a week or so, because I'll be trapped without any internet, and without any... Well, I've got a car that has gasoline in it, but without any means of acquiring gasoline because all the gas stations have run out. And I suppose all the bottled water has been sold out as well. But as long as I've got power, I've got a well. So anyway, that's all for today. Anawilto's over and out, and I'll be seeing you all next time.